and that is that Dak Prescott, the starting quarterback for the hapless-looking Dallas Cowboys, is going to miss, quote, several weeks with getting hand surgery after suffering an injury late in the second half of a game in which the Cowboys scored 3 points and were humiliated and embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their home debut on Sunday Night Football. Unfortunately, there are, I believe Kevin Clark pointed this out, there are 4 more Dallas Cowboy primetime games and 6 total 4 p.m. window games for the Dallas Cowboys. So they need to get flexed out as soon as humanly possible. I mean, we always lead off with the Sunday Night Football. We were probably going to go Steelers, Bengals, because it was a better game, a more exciting game. This is the second fewest points ever scored in a season opener in Cowboys history. Only worse was 1989 when they scored 0 points at the Saints. 2022, 3 scored. Obviously, 2001 they scored 6 against the same Buccaneers team. Mike McCarthy was asked about or told about the injury initially on the sideline. The cameras captured him. He was like, looked left, looked right, was like, didn't know what to do. And then after the game, he was talking to a trainer, and you could tell he's like, "You got to be effing kidding me!" Or, essentially, it feels like the Cowboys season and Mike McCarthy's tenure with Dallas is like, a fait accompli at this point, right?
Good Lord. I was going to say, half jokingly, we can unofficially start the Sean Payton watch. Is that unfair? Yeah. The offensive line is in shambles because of injuries. There's one wide receiver on the team named CeeDee Lamb. The defense it's a little lacking compared to last year. So maybe it's unfair to say that Sean Payton will be the coach, the next coach at some point. But football ain't fair, Breach. So Mike McCarthy has a lot to figure out in a short amount of time. I have never thought he was equipped to do that. I do wonder, and Breach, I'm interested in what you think about this. Jerry Jones is a lot of things, and at the top of the list, he's very stubborn. He's come out and said several times over the course of Mike McCarthy's tenure that Mike McCarthy's his coach, and that's the way it's going to be. How long until he comes off that, and how long until legitimately Mike McCarthy's answering 2, 3, 4 questions per press conference about Sean Payton and/or whoever his successor may be?
Well, I won't be surprised if it happens this week. First, he's going to answer all the Dak Prescott questions and have to answer exactly how many weeks is it going to be? What's a few? Is it 4? Is it 3? Is it 5?
He said, quote, several weeks. He also called the loss tremendously disappointing. And he added real disappointed before Dak's injury and certainly disappointed after it. Jane Slater of NFL Media, friend of the pod, says that Jerry told reporters the injury is above the joint of his throwing hand, above the thumb, behind the joint. That doesn't sound like an easy fix, because it's one thing if it's like you broke a finger like Russell Wilson last year, I think did. Dak was like pointing to the joint of his hand when he came walking off to the sideline. An injury to your joint feels like that could be something where not only is it several weeks that you're out because of the surgery breach, but maybe even a little bit longer because you're trying to sort of rehab and get ready and able to like fully throw and do everything you need to do. And that is a behind the joint, above the thumb is a big red flag for me.
Well, the crazy thing here is that if this was week 10, the Cowboys were 3-7 and Dak's out for 5 weeks, you just mail in the season and say that's fine. But it's week 1. Is this the point where you call up the San Francisco 49ers and you say, what the hell do you guys want? We'll give you whatever you want for Jimmy Garoppolo because we need to save our season. Because anything short of that does feel like they're destined for doom. And if that happens, then Mike McCarthy's done. I mean, Sean Payton's probably watching this with his fingers together, not happy that anyone got hurt, but thinking, well, there's no way Mike McCarthy's digging his way out of this
breach.
So I'm going to be the coach.
Let's say you get Jimmy Garoppolo for a second-round pick, which would be asinine, but let's say they do it. When are you starting Jimmy Garoppolo?
Week 3.
Against the Bengals in week 2.
No, week 3. I'm giving him – you don't want to throw him out against the Bengals.
Maybe the Steelers should beat the Bengals twice and send Mason Rudolph to the Cowboys.
Missed it badly. What is happening here?
That's actually Mason Rudolph might be a good consolation prize. That I like.
People in the chat threw out Gardner Minshew and the Eagles just won
for a third-round pick. for a 3rd round pick.
No, the Eagles would not. I mean, maybe for a 1st round pick, the Eagles would consider doing it. The Eagles are not going to help out the Cowboys.
Well, he's going to replace Jalen Hurts in probably 3 weeks. I bet that's what Debo
Kyle
said.
Shanahan's going to hold a press conference and be like, "Yeah, we're not trading Jimmy because he's our starter next week."
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure Kyle Shanahan was quite comfortable trading Jimmy. We'll get to that in a little bit.
But let me say this quickly. Breach mentioned that if this were week 10, the season would be over. Based on the way this team played before Dak got hurt, feels like the season's over. Now, look, I know first week overreactions, all that stuff, but let me put it to you this way. They didn't have Michael Gallup. They didn't have James Washington. Jalen Tolbert, who was a day 2 pick, couldn't even beat out Dennis Houston for a game day slot. Let's say they have Jalen Tolbert and Michael Gallup and James Washington. What's the score of this game?
If they have Jalen Tolbert and James Washington, it's like 19.
And Michael Gallup. Let's say they have
19
they have
to
actual
9.
receivers.
19 to 9. I don't know.
That's my point. So
the offensive line is a problem. The receivers are a problem.
Tyler Smith did okay. Tyler Smith was fine.
Tyler Smith was fine at left tackle, but the reality is because Tyron Smith is hurt, Tyler Smith can't play left guard. He has to play left tackle, and it just
Connor McGovern got hurt.
Apparently suffered an injury as well.
He did suffer one.
This team is not, even if Dak Prescott is healthy, the offense they're running, the receivers they have, and the offensive line that they're working with, this is not before Dak got hurt, it was like, well, I mean, this team doesn't feel like it's going to be a problem in the division. It doesn't feel like it's going to be any good. And
wait a second, the team didn't feel like it's going to be a problem. Like they would still have a chance to compete. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, they would technically have a chance, sure, but it didn't feel like a team that was going to threaten to do anything meaningful this season.
Yeah, that part I agree with.
Is it worth? I mean, I think it's probably 2 flukes because of the way that they both happen. But just worth noting, like Mike McCarthy, is this his 3rd year? Yeah,
sure.
Okay, thanks. It is his 3rd year, I believe. And Dak Prescott they're going to end up missing significant chunks of time in 2 of those 3 years after not missing a single game in the first 4 years of Dak's career.
I'm just saying, McCarthy too.
I
mean, a freak broken leg accident, and he hit his head on some guy's helmet. He
broke his leg because the Cowboys were trying to mount a furious comeback, and I mean they were really bad. Right?
Well, the upside is they didn't break his leg last year in the last play of the season, so that's good. Even though it was that debilitating playoff loss to the 49ers. No, I'm not blaming Mike. That's nothing to do with Mike McCarthy.
Okay, just saying. Yeah, it's a rough 2022 start. Completed less than 50% of his passes. The Cowboys.
And by the way, maybe Dak was hurt with some other injury prior to the actual breaking of his hand. He looked terrible.
Like he mentioned some discomfort in his ankle leading up to the game.
He looked terrible. He was missing on easy throws. The interception was not a great interception. CeeDee Lamb dropped the ball early in the first half that he probably would have told you he should have caught, and I think we would all agree with that. But the other throws left a lot to be desired, and it wasn't like it felt like the Buccaneers at halftime said, you know what, let's dial this back to 60% because that's all we need to do to beat this team, and they did it convincingly.
Let's run the ball 30 times in the second half and get out of here.
Let's tell Leonard Fournette he's at LSU and that he's playing against Sam Houston State in week 1, and that's exactly what that looked like.
Well, as Chris Collinsworth pointed out, the Buccaneers pounded the ball.
Chris Collinsworth
had 74 cigarettes for lunch today and gargled some gravel. Like, at least they address it right off the bat. Like, look, Chris is not sick. He's just, had to talk a lot for 2 days. Like, well, where's your voice, Tarico? It's fine.
I'm a pro.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother like Al Michaels and anyway.
Coming hard at Collinsworth.
I like Collinsworth. But he pointed out, the Bucs pounded Fournette in their into this Cowboys defense. I mean, Michael Parsons was awesome, and
and who else?
Yeah, exactly. He was like the learning bright spot. And then as soon as the Cowboys were forced to kind of stack the box and play single coverage, they just attacked with Mike Evans, and it led to that quick touchdown. The only touchdown scored in the 3rd quarter, I believe, of the game. And I mean, quite frankly, it never felt like the Bucs weren't great, and they never pulled away, obviously, but it never felt like the Cowboys were.
They felt like they were pretty good, and like I said, I think they took their foot off the gas.
Yeah, I mean, here's the Cowboys drive chart: field goal, punt, interception, punt, end of half, punt, downs, punt, downs. They had one drive that was more than 50 yards.
They had 4 first downs on their first drive and 1 first down on their last drive of the first half.
Well, and that's the amazing thing is that, the first drive is the one you script. So clearly Mike McCarthy's like, ooh, I know how to beat this defense. And then just whatever he decided he was going to do on the first drive, threw everything out the window, or the Buccaneers adjusted. And it was just, I mean, it was embarrassingly bad. That's how bad the Cowboys were. They could not do anything. It really felt like once the Buccaneers went up 12-3, there was no way Dallas was winning at 12-3.
You know what? It was 19-3. Is that right? Was it 19-3?
19-3 final, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I had this thought. 19-3 is 16-point difference. So if they had scored a touchdown miraculously, I was convinced that Mike McCarthy was going to kick the extra point and make it a three-score game. So it's probably one less thing he has to worry about, that he didn't score a touchdown there and refuse to go for two to make it a 2-score game. Breach, give me one positive the Cowboy fans can hang their hat on to take away from this game, other than Micah Parsons.
You get a 7-day break from watching Mike McCarthy coach.
The correct answer is you play the Bengals next. That's the correct answer.
How about Zeke Elliott averaging 5.2 yards per carry?
Yeah. Also worth noting, if you're going to have Dak Prescott drop back, let's have Zeke Elliott be the pass protector, not Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard can't block, and you're paying Zeke all that money anyway. It's like they didn't even think this through. It's like a week 2 preseason game where you didn't script anything and you just roll the ball out there and said, all right, let's see what happens.
And you really feel bad. Like, the Cowboys defense busted their butt. I mean, they weren't great. They came up with some key sacks, got an interception, and like you just said, Micah Parsons was lights out. But I mean, the Buccaneers were moving the ball at will until they got in the Cowboys territory and got forced to kick field goals. But it was just an ugly all-around game for Dallas.
Let me ask you this. Is there any chance that the Dak Prescott injury
Can't wait to hear
gives
this.
Mike McCarthy
No.
an excuse here?
Sure. He had the same
For
excuse.
what?
Yeah, 2 years ago or last year, whenever Dak got hurt and Andy Dalton had to play. You haven't. It doesn't matter. Like, the NFL isn't fair. If Sean Payton, hypothetically calls Jerry Jones and says, "Hey, I'll coach even if Dak's hurt," you think Jerry Jones will be like, "Oh, no, this is Mike's job. He's hit a string of bad luck." Jerry Jones is 78. He ain't waiting around for another 10 years for Mike McCarthy to figure it out.
Yeah, I think with Sean Payton out there, and
who knows, maybe it's someone else. We keep bringing up Sean Payton.
Sean Payton feels pretty. I mean, Sean Payton, Jason Garrett was definitely trending on Twitter. Maybe he'll come back.
Let's see. Oh, well, we'll talk about it later. The Dolphins won, so I think Sean Payton's out on the Dolphins. They look good.
I don't know that the Dolphins can hire him.
And he's out on the Chargers because they won also. So
Right.
literally, by the process of elimination, we only have the Cowboys left.
Was Sean Payton in on the Chargers?
He just
The
wants a quarterback.
reports were that he only wanted to coach the Cowboys, Chargers, or Dolphins.
He needs a quarterback, and he ain't trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
By the way, before we end the podcast in 3 hours, let's remember. I think we should do this every week.
3 minutes.
Every week we should do like a quote unquote pick 6 podcast coaches poll of where we feel we are with our Super Bowl picks. I feel pretty good after this week.
Oh God.
I'm pretty glad that I picked the Eagles over the 49ers.
We'll get to that. We don't have to get to it now. Just keep it on the to-do list.
I think. I'm not trying to say that Mike McCarthy gets an excuse. I'm just saying that, like, if your quarterback is hurt because of a fluke accident or a freak accident, maybe
This ain't high school.
I'm just saying that changes things. But it's also like, all right, Dak's been hurt twice in the last 3 years under your watch, Mike. Yeah, they're fluke accidents, but you know what? We prefer someone who doesn't get his quarterback hurt all the time.
Donovan Smith got hurt. Chris Godwin got hurt early on. Mike Evans was banged up, but he came back. Didn't affect Tom Brady and Todd Bowles.
Sure.
So take that.
Me?
No. Breach is the Breach bot 3000. He's been awfully quiet about that too, by the way.
Did you draft the Cowboys as one of your Super Bowl teams?
Yes.
What is happening here?
Did you have him winning the division preseason?
No.
Oh, okay.
Who'd you have winning? The Eagles?
Eagles.
All right.
It wasn't that much preach.
If you had to re-rank the NFC East right now, how would you rank it?
Cowboys last. Everyone else in
I
first.
think so, yeah.
I think Washington might be second.
Yeah, maybe Eagles.
Maybe even the
Washington.
Giants, the way they finished that game.
Yeah, Eagles, Washington, Miami, maybe Washington, Miami, Washington, New York, tie 2 or something, and then Cowboys, DFL.
What's DFL?
Dead friggin' last.
Oh, nice. Love it.